Good morning and welcome to our Power Breakfast this Tuesday morning. Our interview this morning focuses on the heated matter of whether President Uhuru Kenyatta should attend, as directed by the International Court on October 8, to attend what is called the status conference. Well, many people believe the case is wobbly and has no chance of success, but there are those who believe that the process needs to be followed up to the end. And this morning, we want to look at the legal implications of the status of that case and whether the president should or should not attend and the consequences thereof. We're joined by two lawyers, Kibe Mungai, who is a man we all know. He's in court for a lot of things, and more recently to challenge the Okoa Kenya referendum, and Harun Ndubi, human rights advocate and lawyer of long standing. Karibuni bana. Let's start with a status evaluation. Do you think the case, what is the evaluation of the status of that case? Does it have a chance of success, or how is it going forward? Starting with you, Harun.
It depends on really what you think success is. Looking at it from the victim's side of view, I think the fact that a case has been taken to court and is likely to go on is important. And therefore, that is in itself a measure of success, because there are many aspects about bringing an issue to closure, people knowing the truth, or at least an effort being made to know the truth, and that certain people who are considered beyond the reach of the law are actually reached by the law. So for me, to the extent that the case is still ongoing, is a successful measure.
Right. Kibe, what do you offer for that?
I think the status of the case is that the case is on its last legs, even by the prosecution's own saying. And the hour of reckoning for ICC has come. It is, for me, the only regrettable thing is that it didn't come sooner. When there was this confirmation hearing decision, I remember doing a long analysis for the Nairobi Law Monthly, and I pointed out that the witnesses 4, 11, and 12, the analysis of the evidence, because they are the main witnesses used to confirm the charges against Uhuru, was dubious, and I would even use the word dishonest on the part of the court. Of course, at that time, we expected there would be additional evidence. No additional evidence has come. And therefore, when even these people pulled out because of the many lies as they told, then it was these are the circumstances that there were just pebbles. There was nothing else. That was foreseeable. But to many people, it was not foreseeable. And therefore, for me, the only issue of concern, and even now for the court, is how are we going to perform the last rites for this highly politicized process? Because as of now, yes, the prosecution itself does not believe that there will be anything. And the fact that even the ICC court itself is now bothering, like you say, I have got no evidence, and you want to have the whole president of a country to appear before you. In fact, it tells me how the ICC, through politicization of the legal process, yes, has ended up killing international justice. And therefore, this, the biggest thing and the biggest regret, most of us had a lot of hopes that international justice will be the last salvage in countries that we have got a lot of impunity. But when you decide that you must have a case for it for purposes of political equivalence, courts must never play politics. The second case never ought to have been there. If planning and the ingredients of these crimes against humanity charges were to be followed, the second case should never have been there. It is not to deny that there were killings, but it is just to say, could they add up to the planning necessary that anybody planned, we are going to commit genocide for whatever cause? That was just a collection of evidence for political purposes, and it has come to what it is. It was foreseeable, because the moment you go the political way, the day you take political evidence in court, it was going to flounder, and it has floundered.
Why are you calling it politics? Because the only person who politicizes what I think Moreno Campo is the one who was set up to show Kenya an example. But when it comes to question the judges, why is it politics?
No. You see, for purposes of, it was not a Moreno thing entirely. This is something that you had it from Kenya, from the Waki Commission. You go to Moreno, where there was a desperation that if you go against one group of Kenyans, that it was going to cause political instability in Kenya. That should not be the concern of the court. The court should go for people you suspect to have evidence on the basis of what the crime is, to have committed a crime. The political consequences, they should have played out on the ground. Because now that you went that way, now you can clearly be able to see that you cannot sustain.
The question, Kibe, somebody will ask is, before we get back to Harun to respond to that, is when did it start to become political? Because we know that the genesis of those suspects was in an investigation instituted and carried out by Waki. Are you saying then the Waki Commission was politically influenced to generate the four suspects?
Or
where does
the Waki,
or to give the envelope?
Or to give the envelope?
No,
or to
the
name
Waki
those
Commission, actually, let's start there. What the Waki Commission, the political part of the Waki Commission, Waki, and it has never happened in this country for that commission. If you've seen the terms of reference for that commission, you prepare a report, you hand it over to the president, who has appointed you. But the moment the Waki Commission, the first political decision was this: you are a judge of the Court of Appeal and with other colleagues who plays in the legal sector of Kenya, then you make a decision that the Kenyan courts cannot be able to prosecute, and you start giving ultimatums to Parliament and to the President. You give a timetable. If this is not done, the case is going to The Hague. The reason why matters go to The Hague, it is clearly set out in the Rome Statute. We cannot go into it. The second part of the politicization is this, that this fellow received evidence, Moreno Ocampo, the prosecutor, and Moreno Ocampo, and you have already mentioned it, the major preoccupation became, we are going to use this as an example that in the next elections, there is going to be peaceful elections in Kenya. How there was supposed to be peaceful elections in Kenya is by getting 3 guys from both sides, so that you arrive at these cases and the choice of prosecutions because of the alleged camp. So that for me, and this was from the word go, since you have to get people from the PNU side, Uhuru, Muthaura, and Ali, they were there principally because they were on the PNU side, not evidence, if you ask me. And this is why these things come.
So then the question is, would you blame Moreno Ocampo or do you blame the Waki Commission, if that
Moreno
indeed were the case?
Ocampo, 3 people, Waki Commission.
If it's established
Moreno
that those
Ocampo,
names came from the
yes,
Waki Commission.
Moreno Ocampo, the Waki Commission, and of course the judges.
Kibe Mungai.
That this opportunity was
brother,
there.
My brother, you are arguing as if nothing happened in this country.
Right, let's hear what Harun has
No,
to say.
I'm not.
No, no,
I
no.
speak
We'll get
with
back
a
to
lot
you.
of respect
That's
to those
true.
people.
Let's see.
But crimes against humanity?
No.
And the judge said that.
Whether it is whatever crime that happened, crimes happen in this country.
Killings happened.
Killings happen.
Yes.
If you choose not to define them as crimes against humanity, if you choose to define them as non-forcible transfer of persons, that is an opinion as a lawyer you can hold, that you would take to court and say, this is not what happened. That is a matter for the defense of whoever is charged. I do not think it is right for us to trivialize what happened in this country and start saying that everything went wrong by everybody acting politically. In any event, these arguments about politicization, I've not heard them in this country about Charles Taylor, for instance, who has been jailed, who did nearly similar things, if not worse. Probably he did worse, but because he's been convicted anyway. But you cannot now say that because it's someone else, that is not political, this one of ours is political here. The thing is, there is a trial. We know in this country, we don't even have to focus on the ICC. In this country, we have many, many cases which are usually trumped up by the state. Assuming Kibe is right, that case is trumped up. What happens is, you go through the due process and find that actually that case was trumped up and someone gets acquitted, and upon acquittal, you sue. Now, in the question you are asking is whether Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, our president, should be going to The Hague, not the merit of that case. In my view, questions of merit
lie within the court.
They lie within the court. If it's for the court to determine that this evidence and the circumstances here, because the opinion of Moreno Ocampo, for instance, when Moreno Ocampo spoke what the famous words Kibe is quoting about making Kenya an example, you know, in one day we all say many, many things. But you and I will remember only that which the media told us or that which we thought was important. There are many things. That was a conclusion of many things. You can't say that because it's, he said, I'll make Kenya an example, that is a political statement. He probably was evaluating the evidence as he then had it. We have seen that many witnesses have either died or been have recanted their testimonies, or have in some way not been available to provide testimony. Now, that is not evidence of non-commission of crime. I would be reluctant to defend anybody, including Kibe Mungai or yourself, Mutegi, or Makali, or myself. Well, I would defend myself, but I would be reluctant to defend any one of us that you didn't commit a crime if I didn't know for the fact what the evidence was.
Yeah.
Now, these people who have alleged to recant the evidence, what do we know about them? Those who have died, what do we know about them? So I think for me, let the court make its final conclusion,
yes,
and determine how this matter should go. If finally they decide that Uhuru Kenyatta is there isn't enough evidence to try him, they will let the case go.
Yes.
But this question of saying should he go, should he not go, is an idle question, really.
Okay.
He should go.
It's an idle question, but I'll get to look at that, how idle it is in a moment, and whether this should occupy our minds and the consequence of not. Anything you have to say in response to the rebuttal?
Of course, the rebuttal is off target in this sense. Huh? Three things. Number one, on the date that Moreno Ocampo, I believe it must have been at Intercontinental, one of the hotels in Nairobi,
yes,
was just about to announce who will be going to The Hague.
Yes.
It was live on television. One of the things that I'll never forget, is that all these important ODM people were in that meeting.
Yes.
It could be a coincidence, but to me I saw Annan and foreknowledge as to who was going to be announced. So there was no surprise. Number two, even in Kenya, before a magistrate, yes, you remember that day, you switch back to history.
Well,
secondly, even before a magistrate's court in Kenya, if a magistrate asks the prosecutor, or the prosecutor says that we do not have our key witnesses, this case, we do not have enough evidence. In Kenyan courts, the case cannot go beyond that day. In Kenyan courts. And therefore, I would be concerned.
That is not true.
International justice.
That's not true, Kibe.
You
What happens?
the court
International
wish to know
court,
why
I
the
think
witnesses
it's
have not
important
turned
to
up.
put
No.
Let's put the record straight
Oh
here.
Let him
God.
finish.
I was
Let him finish. Let
rebutting.
Kibe finish.
Okay.
Then you will.
I
So
apologize.
that what I'm saying, what I'm saying,
Yes.
it is scandalous as far as I'm concerned that the prosecutor can say we only have pebbles, and the question was asked directly: if you turn these pebbles, do you think you have any chance that you may convict? The answer was no. Yet this court permits such a prosecutions to go on. Finally, the thing is this: if in good conscience, because international justice must be by example, you want the president to two capacities. When you want to humiliate him, you say that the president is just an accused person, okay? Why are you still hanging on to his case? Because at that time you turn around and say, oh, he's the president of Kenya. He must be the one obstructing the financial records. There is nobody who can ever be convicted on the basis of financial records, and the prosecution said as much. And therefore, for me, I would actually be much more concerned when you see that these desperations continues, that this case must somehow be there. It is because of investment. You investment a lot of political prestige into this case.
The matter in contention is that here is not just an ordinary suspect in court, but as you say, he is the president. And the connection to this case is that his government is supposed to volunteer the evidence or cooperate with that court or the prosecution in assisting the trial to proceed. And so his duality of personalities comes into play.
I would agree with you, Magali, but that does not take away the duty of the prosecution. You see, up to the stage, what are we cooperating with? Up to the stage where the evidence against, even minus the Kenyan government, okay, even without the state, it is the role of the prosecutions to give this evidence. The prosecution says the evidence is not good, but for purposes of performing the last rites of how is this case going to die, the prosecution is clearly desperate that the case should die not on the premise or that there is no evidence, but on the premise that the Kenya government frustrated this process. This is what it's all about. Don't think it's about anything else.
If you are judge, I want to exhaust that argument before you come to Ndubi. If you are judge, here is the prosecution has come, Bensouda has come and said, look, these crimes were committed. We have no access to the evidence because the evidence lies here. Should the judge say, as you as a judge say, okay, since you can't access it, that's it. My interest is not in the justice, but in the fact that you can't, produce the evidence.
No, Makali, this case ought to have died when the prosecution said that even the financial records will not be enough to keep this case alive. But an equally important thing is this, that the moment you are ICC and the case now, the question is, how is it going? How is it going to proceed? I think for me, you do more justice to the case by not running away from the facts. And the facts are, this case is not sustainable. Let's remember Kaul, the German judge. These one words, and I will never forget. He said that this case, and he was at that time analyzing the Uhuru case. When he said, there is no doubt, and I want Harun to remember this, this is what I believe. There is no doubt that serious crimes in Kenya were committed against opposition supporters. But he said, these were multiple murders. These were, people were displaced from their home. But the threshold, whether they are crimes against humanity, if we accept no more criminal actions to be the cases that are going to be prosecuted before this court, ICC can only be the loser. And I agree with him. At the end of this process against against President Kenyatta and that other case, ICC will be a big loser.
Okay, Harun, what do you think?
You have shut me out for a long time.
I know, but
it's a good
we
thing.
had to have
it's a good thing. I was putting my thoughts together as well. Two important things. Kibe is discussing the process. He seems anxious that a decision should have been made earlier than later to either terminate or somehow bring an end to the case against President Uhuru, for whatever reasons. And he could be right. But the point is, that process requires also that it becomes due. It becomes a due process. And that's what the ICC, as the court, as well as the prosecution, is trying to do. The prosecution is trying to perform its function. The court is trying to perform its function. And the court especially is demanding of the accused to ensure that he obeys and conducts himself in accordance with the requirements of the court. Now, if we get to a situation where an accused person, whether it is Uhuru or Muntegi Njau or another, is determining how they will respond to the court, rather than them responding to the court in accordance to the court's demands, then you are prejudicing the principle, which is overall about the rule of law and the requirement that we must respect judicial process. So, whatever the other people may have said, including the late Judge Hans Cole. Judge Hans Cole was in the minority. Kibe and I know that a judgment of the court, if it's not unanimous, is that of the majority. One of the minority is called obiter, is an opinion. So Hans Cole's view, however persuasive it is to Kibe or any other person, was an opinion. In regards to the Kenyan situation, and this is the earliest objection I wanted to take to my colleague, my friend here, is that when the prosecution says we don't have evidence, the case must shut up. It's not true. You remember very well what happened to Issa Timami. The prosecution went to court time and again saying, we are still investigating. And Timami's case is only coming to mind because it's perhaps the most recent famous one in Kenya. There are many, many cases in this country where the police say, we want to hold this person for longer or charge him, keep him for longer, either in custody or on bail, because we are still investigating, looking for evidence. So it's not unusual. 3, the issue of the financial statements. The ICC's case is simple, that Uhuru Kenyatta used this money to pay some fellows to commit offenses. Now, if you
allegedly.
Allegedly, of course, yeah. I agree. Alleged.
Yeah. That's what they say the ICC case is.
Yes. Yes. If they are not providing the initial financial statement, how would they show that this statement came, the money came from here and went here and went here? If the money, the financial statement was given, there would be additional questions as to the movement of that money. So it's not true to say that the financial statements will not prove anything. The financial statement would actually show that this money moved at this time, at the time of the commission of the offense. Yeah.
What Kibe says is that it would not be sufficient to convict, because then it would, as you say, it's only evidentiary. It helps towards, you know, leading
keeping
up
the
to
suspicion alive.
Yes, yes.
It will keep
It creates other leads.
Every level of evidence is actually keeping the suspicion alive until you are able to say, now we conclude that this is how the money went. So for me,
there's something here. Harun, he's losing. He started on the Timami case. The Timami case does not prove what he said. It's actually in my favor. Because in the Kenyan judge actually said, if the prosecutor has no evidence, we have to terminate. Yeah. The day when they have evidence, then they will come. So the Timami evidence is what I'm saying.
There is a distinction. There is a distinction.
Yeah,
let me get short. Yes. The distinction here is that in the ICC's law, the prosecution has made a request to the government of Kenya to provide information, which the ICC, in terms of the law, understands that the government is capable of providing. The government has either failed or refused to provide that information. In the Timami case, it is...
The Attorney General said he has given all the information they want.
That is, he's making a statement. Yeah. But he has also said that some of this information I'm not capable of giving you. So there is a debate.
And it's actually the correct position in Kenya.
It may be the correct position, but I'm saying there is a debate which is yet unresolved.
Your financial records can't be given without a court order. The Kenyan state has no those powers. You see, ICC assumes Kenya is a dictatorship and can do anything under the sun. When they are told, for example, there's a position in Kenya.
I'm not a lawyer, but the ICC requests the Kenya government to provide records. The Kenya government, under its law, cannot provide those records. The Kenya government, however, can go to court and obtain the same orders to get those financial orders. Isn't it part of the cooperation it needs to offer the ICC? Let me answer that.
Before answers, I have to point out this.
Yes.
Uhuru went to court to obtain personal telephone records of unknown Kenyans.
Yes.
Personal telephone records of unknown Kenyans against them to go and use that out there.
And I remember the courts even made that blocked the public from accessing those proceedings.
I filed a case against it.
Yes, precisely.
It's still pending.
Including the press. It was not even allowed to cover those proceedings.
Yes, precisely. And there was...
So, answer my question.
Yes.
If indeed the government of Kenya is a signatory and is expected to cooperate with the ICC, the Rome Statute is a signatory statute, it is required to cooperate. Part of that cooperation is what Bensouda, the prosecution, is demanding. Give us these documents as part of our investigations. Okay, The AG goes there and says, look, even under Kenyan law, we cannot provide private information or details. But you're saying that even in Kenya, you can go to court and obtain a court order to compel a bank to give you those statements.
Precisely.
Why can't the government then do that if it's indeed in cooperation with the ICC and supply those documents?
You see, you see, there is a more important issue, because when you look at the laws, and I was doing a case recently, I can remember it, who can actually go and make that application, okay? It is not the government in all circumstances that it has power to do what it's supposed to be doing. But even as we go that, we are deviating from the technicalities which to go there would even complicate the issue for the viewers. The more important issue would be this, for purposes of the viewers, that the ICC, the prosecution says this.
Yes, yes.
It says this. From the evidence, the only thing that has been left unchecked, as I said, are the financial records.
Yes.
Okay? Yes, and when you get these records, because that question was posed directly, what would those records prove? Would it prove the charges against Uhuru? They said no. That's where we need to remember just Judge Hans call. And Judge Hans call was saying, what would you prove? You would at best prove that money was given to a criminal gang. And Judge Hans call says that ICC is not here to see the to try criminal gangs for what they did. Because let us remember this. When this case started, and the cases before the ICC start, on the basis that people linked to the state have committed crimes against humanity. The people who were supposed to be linked with the state originally were supposed to be Ali and Muthaura. Uhuru was supposed somehow, which is incredible, to be the general of Mungiki. As a general of Mungiki, going by the jurisprudence under the Rome Statute, Uhuru Kenyatta can't be tried before the Hague, because the Hague is not there to try generals of criminal gangs, which now we go back to where we started. Because that's the only reason why he's there.
I don't know where that comes from.
No, let us go to the statute. If you have a statute to bring it, I'll show you.
I think Kibe, in his enthusiastic defense.
We have seen Lubanga and all these people tried in the ICC.
That's what I'm saying.
They're not entirely criminal gangs, so you can go to Lubanga if you want us to go there.
The thing is this. I think sometimes we lawyers complicate issues for nothing. The accusation against Uhuru is that he, in a systematic command, was the head or leader of the Mungiki, or he funded the Mungiki, if you want to say that, for purposes of committing clear, defined offenses. And that is the accusation. Whether you want to define it as whether it was the...
But you needed Ali and Muthaura to show that that Mungiki has state-like features. Let us remember that it is a state-like control over an area, over a population that qualifies.
The trouble we're having with
Harun just clarify one
myself is that he's acting as if he was a defense lawyer in court, trying to create those distinctions. What we are saying, and I thought that's what was important for us to understand in terms of managing expectations of Kenyans, is to say this is a process that is ongoing. This fact and this fact may not be in tandem. Ultimately, the end will be either this or the other.
That's right.
So that we do not discuss the merit of Bensouda's case.
Or guilt or otherwise evidence or lack of.
Exactly. I don't know whether Uhuru Kenyatta is guilty or not. Nobody knows. I suspect.
Okay, clearly you've said the good, returned us actually to our original platform. Now I may restart. So the question is, now I want to frame the discussion in the proper sense. In fact, what is it that is expected to happen on 8th October?
Precisely. And I would say this very, very quickly.
What is the status conference?
The status conference, I think there are certain allegations that have been made, or even insinuations, if you may, and Kibe would like that I'm using that word, that the president, on account of his presidency, is obstructing access to the documents that are required, which would determine whether the case should go on or not. I think that's what really the question is going to be put to him, that are you obstructing, are you not?
Yes.
It will be put in better language than I'm putting it. And that's the question he needs to answer.
Which he could be asked at that conference, therefore, to go and do the following things.
Precisely. Precisely. So that the question as to whether he should go, and in fact that reminds me, sorry to divert a little bit to where Kibe started about the politicization and embarrassing the president. We know that the presidency is an institution created by law that must oblige to the law. Kenya is a state party to the Rome Statute, and we have declared, even in our own constitution and in our hearts, that we must live by the rule of law. So we expect that the president ought to oblige the rule of law. This thing about embarrassment is about ego. Ego is personal. So there is a distinction between the person of Uhuru Kenyatta, who is saying, na hawa ni nani wananiita? Who are they? And the president, which is the presidency, to say, if the law requires that I do this, I do it. Which is why, as president, he signs the bills which come from parliament. He doesn't sign that, yeah, Uhuru Kenyatta, I'm not going to sign, I don't want this one or the other.
In any case, those people who are arguing about humiliation,
yes.
Isn't the deputy president going there?
Sorry?
Isn't the deputy president William Ruto?
Precisely.
He is not there.
He has not been humiliated. He is respected in this country.
So, what you argument about that?
Actually, as a matter of fact, the president's personal humiliation has never been my core reasons, even when I believed that ICC was politicizing this event. The major issue has been, and thanks to ICC, for those of us in Jubilee, ICC gave us...
He's no longer a lawyer, he's Jubilee.
Precisely. No. I'm saying, I'm not a lawyer.
Go ahead.
But,
There's nothing wrong with being
yes,
Jubilee.
but to deny that I supported Jubilee would be going against common sense. It would be a lie. So the position is this, that for purposes of the last elections, what moved the Kenyan people, and this is well known, is that over the process, when you politicize a legal process, and you say these people are supposed to be criminals, to be a criminal, David, it is evidence of our eyes, the evidence of our ears. We know what happened in Kenya. We are all adults. You are not insane. If we know what happened in Kenya, when you hear ICC's theory about what allegedly happened is supposed to have happened, in Rift Valley, you are told there was a network that was killing people. You go even to my mother, the people who came running around here, what were they saying? They were making specific words. No this, no that. Okay? Then certainly, you are told that, oh, it happened different from the evidence that you observed with your eyes, from the evidence that you heard with your ears. Okay? That is where the politicization happen.
You are not
and
everywhere.
the humiliation here.
You are not everywhere. I mean,
No.
there could be things which happen in this country beyond your ears and eyes.
No.
And you
The
see
issue
them happen.
is,
You need
the
someone
issue
telling you
is,
they do happen.
No, the issue here empirically is this. You heard what it was all about in Kisumu, what it was all about in Band Forest, and it is contrary. And it was aired live. These crimes against humanity in Kenya,
you may learn a few things.
were actually aired live. Therefore, the position is this. Therefore, the position is this, that it is not an issue of the personal humiliations of the president and the ego. We objected because the issue to say that you are humiliating an entire country, in the president of Kenya represents
the let me cut out the humiliation part, because
precisely.
That's a
but that is what
those
they
who
are
believe
saying.
is humiliation. But
Precisely.
the other
And
thing
I
is
am
that
saying
these
as of
charges
now,
began
as of
before he
now,
became
I'm saying,
president and so
let
forth,
the
even though he
president,
was high profile.
let the
Though
president
I
go.
wanted to
Actually,
add,
that's my position. Even leave alone all these issues of personal humiliation. It has never been about that. My recent position is this. Let the president either go to the video place where they will air this video, or if it must be the Hague, let him go to the Hague. Why do I say that? I say that for a very simple reason, that ICC has run out of options. ICC wants to create a new fight. ICC would be very happy to say we've issued a warrant and they keep their presidents from going anywhere else under the sun.
So he should,
and therefore, as far as I'm concerned,
let's cut to the
a
chase.
person who
so
is
he should go, or he should attend the as directed. That is the word.
Precisely, and just get these things over once and for all. And just say, because I think you need at some stage to look at these judges in the eyes and tell them, this is supposed to be a civilized system. What civilized system do you keep a person in the dock when the prosecutions are said, I have nothing against this man?
That's not what the prosecution is saying. That's not what the prosecution is saying. But
no, they just say the Kenyan government. Actually, they have turned it from Uhuru to the Kenyan government. Yeah. It's only his government that has not given records, but him, have nothing against him.
Two quick things.
That's what they've said.
The first thing is the issue of politicization. I know that, do you recall, by the way, prior to the elections of 2013, the many prayer sessions Uhuru and Ruto went through when they were being prayed for over these ICC cases? It is us Kenyans who have politicized the legal process. It's not the other way around. It's not the ICC responding to our political needs.
All right.
I think that was political.
The second, no, it's all right. It's an opinion, really. Yes. The second point is, and I agree with Kibe, if Uhuru did not attend the summons as directed, it would change the course of action and create a new situation with new demands, which is undesirable for this country. So the best thing for us is let him go, because I think he can attend for that one day, maximum 2 days, I imagine, then he comes back. Because if he doesn't go, in disobedience of the summons, a warrant would be issued, he becomes a fugitive, then the case changes from that of, which is talking about a weak case, to his disobedience or contempt of the court. And that is really unnecessary for Uhuru Kenyatta. Even if he's not my client, that is freely advice. I do.
We shall keep it alive for too long unnecessarily. Exactly. These things need to die, and so that and let us be clear. You know, there is one fiction that was sold out by Kofi Annan with Moreno Ocampo almost successfully. The issue, even in the Second World War, let us remember the prosecutions. In every war, there are villains and there are victims. And it is important, and there are, of course, the people who defend to fight the villains. Now, those people who have fought villains successfully, whether in Iraq, in Afghanistan, a group of villains wanting to commit crimes against humanity, they will not be stopped by singing and praying for them. At some stage, they have to be stopped through arms. But the theory in Kenya is this, that if there is war, the new one that is coming, we must get equivalence. We must get a number of people from here and a number of people from there. If that were to be the case, then we may not have been able to successfully try the people of Japan, the warmongers of Japan and Germany. Because even in Dresden and parts of Germany, they were almost carpet-bombed by the Allies' forces. And therefore, not let us not be historical about these issues. So that by simply saying, oh, a crime has been committed, you are no longer interested in, what were the facts? Who actually sat somewhere and said, we are going to win an elections, or we must commit these crimes as part of our agenda? Okay? Let us not, like now, just say, oh, revenge killings, as they were called, are supposed to be crimes against humanity. You'll have to go to the definitions, the planning. Every Kenyan knows that there was a planning stage, okay? There was a conspiracy. Were these the things that happened for purposes of Kenya? Those are questions probably not for ordinary people.
Okay,
they are questions that must be
crimes against humanity
expressed by humanities.
If the threshold is not met for crimes against humanity,
precisely,
what is the next resort?
Can I say this before
Let me answer that.
Isn't
question?
That
as we come to
it would still be a good question, and though I think an unnecessary question with respect, that question was answered by the pre-trial chamber. There was a decision taken that the threshold was met, whether we disagree or not, because remember it even went to the appeal chambers and it was dismissed. So that already has been met. So this question that Kibe is wanting to take Kenyans back to is really the opinion as to whether this case has merit or not. And for me, right now, it's not for Kenyans to say whether there is merit or not, because offenses were committed a decision has been taken that they were crimes against humanity, forcible transfer of persons, and some form of murders and forcible circumcision,
like yes.
all those things. The decision of the court is there, it has not been reversed.
Yes.
So the issue for me is, do we have this case tried to the end or not? Who has been the cause of the biggest challenge? How is it, in fact, probably even if it were kind of a near political question, how is it that all the witnesses, the important witnesses, recanted the evidence? Why? Why would somebody have lied at the time they gave, in the first instance, they gave their statements when there was no prospect of ICC trial? Then somewhere in the course of the ICC trial, they say, no, we lied to you. Why would they have done that? In fact, I would expect the ICC to investigate these witnesses, either whether they lied or have been influenced to change their opinions. Two, did the ICC have the capacity to conduct investigations? Three, and this is important for Kibe probably to even answer, there are two businessmen in Nairobi, I can't remember them, who filed constitutional petition number 1 or 2 of 2011, seeking to block Judge Rawal, now our Deputy Chief Justice, from taking evidence from provincial police commanders and provincial commissioners. The Attorney General, with those petitioners, by consent, agreed to stop Judge Rawal from taking that evidence. That order is what Kibe Mungai keeps showing to the ICC. That, oh, there is a court order stopping us from taking evidence from PPOs and the PPOs and the PCs. How come that the government, through the Attorney General, concedes to obstruct justice by some fellows who are arguing about the question of sovereignty of Kenya, and then decides that it's not going to even apply to the court to lift that order? Because the order is there, the petition has never been prosecuted. I can say with authority that it was filed, and their lawyer is a member of parliament for where Matipa comes from.
Kiharu.
Kiharu, yeah, my friend Kangata is the one who filed that petition. He has never prosecuted the petition to date from 2011. What was the object? So there is a question as to the complicity of the Kenya government in obstructing the truth finding, whether or not it would be convicting or exculpatory of Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto.
We speak about this case, like is about Uhuru Kenyatta. Let us remember, the case was about 3 people. 2 of them who are directly supposed to be connected to government. That is Muthaura and Ali. When those aspects, particularly of Ali, collapsed, the so-called complicity of Kenya government and its forces died with the charges being
so why is the case still
away.
going on? Even did they
Listen,
die?
yes,
there
I'm
must
going
be
there.
a component
No, I'm going
that
there.
did not die with that particular
No,
aspect,
I'm
right?
saying the component that died is the one that involves Muthaura. They were the governmental people, even from the prosecution's own case.
Yes, yes.
Uhuru was supposed to be the Mungiki financier, the Mungiki general of some kind.
They are complice to the state machinery.
Precisely. But the moment you sever the roots of the state, the connections of the state, going by the case that was presented by the prosecutions, you left Uhuru there hanging as you must try him as a general of Mungiki. Taking you back, if you may let me finish, taking you back again to the issue of criminal gangs. And criminal gangs are not the ones that are sufficient. So that when you go, for purposes that, you finance criminal gangs, did they commit the offense or not? Going back to the issue, like you are being told that you should not bother yourself
my question as
with the merits. Yes.
Would it be triable without the state connection? That's the whole point. Does the case still merit trial by the ICC even without the state connection?
It doesn't.
Yes or no?
The answer is no. And for the simple reasons of their own statutes. It is precisely the reason why the theory had 3 people. It
We
is
have
the
seen
reason
that
why
Kony summoned to ICC and he has no connection to
That's
state.
what I wanted to say. That
In Uganda.
all you need is to
Crimes against humanity committed by institutions or individuals.
An organization and
Where
no, no,
does the state come in there, Kibe, if we are not being
no.
slanted in
The
that
criteria,
argument?
even for purposes of Kony, is that Kony is supposed to have effective control of the territory. It is the reason why, for example, for Mungiki, to be a qualifying organization. You see, to be a qualifying organization, they tried to bring some fictions. Oh, Mungiki taxes people in Mathare. You remember? That is what the threshold that they were trying to meet. So that for the organizations to meet that level.
But hadn't Mungiki taken charge of stages and routes?
No,
Kayole and so forth. Whether they control it or not, but hadn't they?
You see, the criminal actions that they were supposed to do, to be called now to give it state-like characteristics, precisely, were too much.
Mutegi has a burning desire there before we finish the show.
You have said you are a lawyer and you also Jubilee.
No, I've said I supported Jubilee
You just
in the
support
elections,
Jubilee. So
precisely.
anyway.
Somebody supported somebody,
Okay.
if you voted.
Yes, yes.
Now, the question I want to ask you this. We have seen a clamor of Jubilee people, including Senator Karaito Murungi
Yes.
and others who have said, we do not want our president to go.
Yes.
And you have said he must, he
He
has
should
to
go.
He should go.
He should go,
What do you
yes.
want to tell those Jubilee people? Because
No,
I
no,
know
no,
they're
no.
meeting to decide about that matter.
No. I believe on this matter, all Kenyans have their own opinions. I would respect whatever opinions that they have. But looking at this as a lawyer, the understanding is this. It is no longer a personal issues for the president humiliations or the humiliations of Kenyans. As of now, let, if anybody who wants to put, and which is really my main interest, in the process of justice, ICC has been a failure. So that we can begin, and as the economist is suggesting, so that we can begin the post-mortem of the failure of international justice in Kenya, it is only fair that we present before the ICC a man whom its prosecutor says they've got no evidence about, so that we can now be able to see how long is this charade going to be. Okay? So that
Right,
for
I think
me,
we have
it
to-
does a slow.
We have to cut this to the end, but the final, as a take, or yes or no. So should the president go to the ICC or
He
not?
ought to go.
Physically or by video conference?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because his presence, whether by video, we have seen witnesses testify on video. He has been directed to be present.
Yes, that's what the court said. Directed to attend.
Exactly. If he were to appear by video conference, they would have said so.
Yes.
So now that there is a specific court order, he should respect that court order just like he expects us. I hope he doesn't disobey it like the destruction of the ship.
Well, should he go or should he not?
I think
Physically,
let's
if
call
that
off
is
the
what it
game.
means.
Whatever it takes, I believe let us be done away with the president's politicized case once and for all.
What do you
And
say
let
about
us
the AU?
begin about...
What do you say about the AU? AU has
Yes, yes, the AU.
AU says that you don't go.
Precisely. But you see, the issue, the AU is largely a political forum for all it is worth. And when you are dealing with the law at some stage, you must turn whatever are your political, and they are trying to do that.
In fact, to cut
Whatever your
we must come to the
political
end of this.
objective
Let me
is,
just ask you,
must.
and I want it in brief, precise
Yes.
manner. Is the resolution by the AU binding on Kenya not to the president not to attend, as they say? They pass a
Even
resolution.
UN resolutions are ordinarily not binding.
Okay.
The binding aspects
So
even of UN
it is,
resolutions
you choose
are-
to or not. You're just seeking solidarity.
It's largely a political forum.
Yes.
That's my answer.
The AU is a
Yes.
political forum. I would say legally it's incontinent. It is not capable of making binding decisions. So
Okay.
And in any event, it was...
And just like the
it is-
UN, it's just a number of
the
decisions
UN
that are binding.
resolutions, after they have been
The
passed and
Security Council
signed,
ones have
they
more
can,
binding.
they can come
Precisely
into effect.
some, but
But
the
AU
majority
ones
of them,
Yes, yes. The
General
AU
Assembly, which is a more democratic
In fact,
one.
you have seen that the AU decisions and comments against the AU have been by the AU or at AU forums have been used against Uhuru Kenyatta in the ICC. And I think it is important for him to note who his friends really are.
Yes.
Finally, if I may say something important,
Yes. Yeah.
there is an important issue because of some comments that are made subsequently, that we must never run away from this. there was a big expectation of justice that ICC made Kenyans to believe
Yes.
that some justice would come from that court.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the day we sit back and say, who betrayed Kenyans? From the word go, Judge Jekyll and some of us said, there's no evidence. People insisted that there's evidence.
So who betrayed?
These people,
In short,
people,
Kibe,
people
who
who betrayed, people who betrayed are those people who decides we must take a number of people from Kenya, from the PNU side, purely for political
this
purposes.
was after
it was a
I think
betrayal.
this conversation is changing now.
Yeah.
This question of betraying Kenya is actually a lie. Nobody has betrayed Kenya needs justice. People who were killed, people were displaced, people lost property. There is nobody who was betrayed by anyone.
Get the true
The
criminals
thing
on
is-
the dock.
The thing is, if the
It's true they were
ICC,
killed.
how many times have people in Kenya been taken to court and been acquitted for lack of evidence? So it's not so unusual. You cannot now say, oh, because we are predetermined that there is no evidence, so you shouldn't even charge.
No.
We go through this. I think this thing of being, the country has not been betrayed. It is the politicians who are betraying Kenya by making a personal problem of Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto and Sang to be a Kenyan problem. It isn't. It is a problem of those three human beings.
Well, that we have to come to the end of this session. Obviously, this matter of ICC attracts a lot of venom, emotion, and people take sides. I mean, as they ought to. Nothing wrong with that. To go or not to go, our verdict here is he should go. The court said he needs to attend. That is subject to interpretation. Others are saying it might be by video conference. But that is if the lawyers apply for video conference appearance. Otherwise, the order says he attends. Let's see what happens. Thank you for watching Power Breakfast.